In our last discussion, we took a look at the relationship between the individual and the polis, or the individual and culture and society and government. And I threw out a line of questions that seemed to suggest that government and society are more important than the individual. Because the greater piece, government and society, create the individual, it seems to suggest that government and society should have more power than the individual. Today we're going to take a look at quite the opposite. We're going to take a look at the individual as being a precursor to society. So the previous discussion, society creates an individual, therefore society is more important. Today, it's going to be the opposite. The Declaration of Independence seems to suggest that the individual comes before government and before society. And since the individual is the atom, if you will, of society, it should be taken care of because good individuals will create a good society and will create a good government. First, we need to define a term, teleology. I'm going to ask you to read the Declaration of Independence and look for the founders' teleology of really everything, the whole. Why did they suggest that the individual is more important than government, more important than the society? Our conversation, like I said previously, suggests the exact opposite. So, with the Declaration of Independence, I want you to take a look at the wording, which words are used, which words are not used, and even the order of the words. So, for example, John Locke says, or uses the phrase life, liberty, and property, or life, liberty, and possessions, while the Declaration of Independence uses life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And even though Jefferson is the father, the pen of the Declaration, it had to go through an editing process, 2 or 3 different steps. So it wasn't just Thomas Jefferson's ideas. It was the founding generation's ideas. And if you don't believe me, just take a look at this letter to Henry Lee, where Jefferson says as much, that it was a borrowing of what most Americans thought to be true at the time, as well as a survey of great thinkers like Locke and Aristotle. Some of y'all may say, well, why don't we just look to the U.S. Constitution? Well, it's kind of weird. Within the 4 corners of the document, the United States Constitution, there's no definition of right. And yet the Constitution claims to instruct the government on protecting your rights. So what we have, in fact, is the government is here to protect something that is not defined. And it's a very dangerous proposition when you're telling the government to protect a thing and you don't know what that thing is. If you don't know what it is, you don't know when it's been taken away. So that brings us to the Declaration of Independence. I want you to take a look at certain terms in the Declaration. Notice that the founders mention here that they need to dissolve the political bands, but they don't say the social bands. What does that mean? The founders say that there are truths that are self-evident. What does that suggest? And that there is a creator that gives us our rights. Then there's this famous passage of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I want you to keep in mind Aristotle. This is very, very important. Life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. Think of things that are alive. Then think of things that are alive and have liberty, like can walk around, so like dogs. Then think of things that are alive, can walk around, and pursue their happiness. And so this term happiness becomes crucial. Does that mean a smile on your face, or is there a different way to think of this term happiness? So in the same way that if you said, oh, that's cool today, you would be saying, oh, that's something desirable. But if you said, oh, that's cool in 1776, they would think that you were talking about temperature. So I don't want you to be anachronistic and look at the term pursuit of happiness and think of the term happiness as we would look at it today. We got to look at it as how the founders would have thought of it back then. So there's definitely an emphasis on safety and happiness. If we can go a little bit further up, the law of nature and of nature's God. Hobbes writes about the state of nature. Why are the founders talking about the law of nature? Then they wrap up the entire document with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence. What does that mean? So finally, we're looking for the teleology. What is the relationship between man, nature, society, God, so on and so forth? And I want you to use #CoopGovt to continue this conversation. Thank you.